No fear against these Turtles, especially with number 5 on their side.
Every time I get the ball, I feel like I can take it the distance. So pretty much just having the faith in my coaches, trusting our scheme, trusting our play.
242 yards later, the Terps still can't locate Jahan Dotson.
You know, we played in the Big House. That's an iconic stadium, but coming out into Beaver Stadium, boy, it took your breath away.
Our impact interview is with a former quarterback for the Maize and Blue. Brian Griese remembers his matchups with the Nittany Lions and talks about the changes Michigan has made to contend for the Big Ten title. And it's a tough stretch to finish out the regular season, what the Lions can do to make a splash in the final 3 games. Nittany Game Week starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. It's a home away from home. College Park, Maryland. The Terps offer some resistance. Eventually, they go back in their shell, and the Nittany Lions snap the 3-game skid.
Good to get that game in the left side of the win-loss column and get kind of back on track, and especially with the stretch coming up.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited they got to win because I started to think, boy, that's going to be a game that could be a real iffy kind of back and forth thing. It didn't turn out to be that way. Now they can focus on the next 3.
Yeah, Maryland hung around. It was 14-14, and then Penn State got it going. The passing game continues to move the sticks. We discuss areas in need of improvement and start our breakdown of the Wolverines in the opening drive. Now, remember back to early in the season, guys. Coach Franklin mentioned the 2 areas most important for winning: explosive plays and turnovers, and the formula returns against the Terps.
No question, and obviously Dotson was able to get free against their zone coverage, which has been different for them, and got the big plays, and that really was a difference in the game.
Yeah, big plays, no turnovers are good pluses to having a great game and getting a big win.
And you watch that play right there. Of course, they get both the explosive play and turnover all at once as Jair Brown seals the deal with that pick-6 dynamic fashion.
If every play was good, they would put up 60, 70 points a game, But like I said, fighting execution, sometimes you can't execute on both sides of the ball. Sometimes we give up plays on defense. Sometimes offense give up plays and miss opportunities. So we always look, to support each other and bounce back and just, have each other back throughout the process.
Yeah, a lot of talk about complementary football on the field. That's the definition of complementary football off the field between teammates, always supporting each other through those ups and downs.
And we talked about it up, and, the red zone defense is good again. But again, like, same thing we're talking about, pass protection problems, run game problems. Got to get those things sorted out going forward.
Especially with what's coming in this weekend. It's going to be very important.
Yeah, and you can see here, guys, there's, Clifford running around. He's moving out his feet, moving that pocket. And then the run game issues. They had a couple of nice runs with Kevon Lee, but for the most part, they were bottled up.
Yeah, not a lot of big plays in the run game, and that's going to be important coming up with Michigan because they're going to want to control the clock when Michigan's on defense.
All right, so we've still got 3 games to go. 2 of them are against teams currently ranked in the top 7 in the country. The Wolverines are in the windshield right in front of the Nittany Lions right now. You guys just can't wait until the scouting report to start talking about the maize and the blue.
Well, you guys all remember the 7 lineman set that Illinois ran, which gave problems. Michigan's got a 6 lineman, multiple tight end set, Tom. I know you love that.
You are going to get some exotic set somehow, some way. Some big set is coming at you this week for sure. You can count on it.
So be ready for that. But a couple other things to talk about with Michigan. Just you look at their running backs. They've plays from scrimmage, yards from scrimmage, receiving and rushing, 198 yards. 48% of their passes go to people the running backs and tight ends, and a lot of red zone trips on offense, tons of them.
Looks like old school Michigan offense now.
Absolutely. And on defense, number 2 in the Big Ten on defense and only allowing 62 plays per game, which means if you're Penn State, you may be limited in number of snaps. You better make them count.
Yeah, but that statistic's a little fooling, too, because your offense is controlling the ball, so your defense isn't on the field. And having your offense on the field really helps that defense.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because 62 plays, that's going to keep your players fresh no matter how it's happening.
No question about it.
Best defense there is.
All right, opportunity awaits for Penn State as they host the 6th-ranked Wolverines in the secondary. Well, they're certainly ready for a challenge.
I think they're a good wide receiver core. I feel like it's going to be a good matchup with us. I feel like we handle some good wide receivers over the last couple of games, and I feel this is another good wide receiver core that we could show our talents and do what we do. So we're all ready for the matchup.
Porter Jr. and the secondary will be tested with their coverage and run defense skills. Michigan's entire offensive unit is all in when it comes to blocking. Time for the scrap metal, Tom, and you texted me at halftime and said, the pick is in.
I did do that. I said, hey, This pick's over this week. John Dotson set a Penn State school receiving record. This wasn't a hard one to pick out. Boy, I'll tell you, he had a great game, and he's a great young man, too.
Well, and you watch what he does across the middle, off to the sides, beaten zone, beaten man. He's just always open or a target.
Two of them are busted coverage. They're going, look, if there's one guy on the field you better cover, he's wearing number 5. And it was great.
You cannot lose number 5. And not a difficult choice when the guy has a day like no other in Penn State history. Big Ten co-offensive player of the week and winner of Tom Bradley's scrap metal.
Every time I get the ball, I feel like I can take it the distance. So pretty much just having the faith in my coaches, trusting our scheme, trusting our game plan, just executing.
This touchdown here, one of the most important of the year, I would say, guys. Maryland had all the momentum. Tie game. Dotson asserts his dominance, reassures his team. We got this. Another huge day for one of the best wideouts in the country. Still to come, the rest of our scouting report. I think the coaches worked overtime on this matchup. It's a big one, no doubt about it. What you need to look for when the Nittany Lions match up with the Wolverines in Beaver Stadium Saturday afternoon. More Nittany Game Week after this.
Scouting Report is sponsored by Penn State Health, giving you the care you want, where you want it. Visit PennStateHealth.org to find a provider near you.
We are back on Nittany Game Week. When Michigan is good, they are extremely steady, which can make them spectacular over the length of a season. And this year's pack of Wolverines is only once beaten, currently ranked 6th in the country, doing a lot of the same things they've done over the years. Coach Paterno, Coach Bradley, give us some details to look for when the Maize and Blue step onto the field at Beaver Stadium.
Well, Todd, we got a little bit of a jump in the opening drive because Michigan is very good in a lot of phases as a football team. And let's start with the offense, where they're very underrated. This is a top 25 offense in the country, and it starts with the power run game. Talk about this stretch play, Tom. I know you love it.
I love it. Old school Michigan football. Just pound you getting off the ball.
And they've got two backs that are really good. And a couple things that really shock you is these guys have run the ball 295 times, and they've only lost 8 yards in losses. And off of that, the thing that they do really well, they are very well coordinated. They show you the outside zone. Now they come back, and you're going to see up front in the end zone, this is going to look exactly like the run play. And then, Tom, what happens?
Then the quarterback pulls it, gets everybody overflowing, not paying attention. Here come the draggers back across the field, and you're out of position.
Yep. And now let's talk about, here's a throw to the tight end, but they also get other people involved. We mentioned earlier, almost half the completions go to tight ends and backs. So this is a running back-oriented offense. Here they're going to get people downfield and throw it underneath the back.
Yeah, if you concentrate too much underneath, they're going up top on you, too.
Yep.
They have that skill to do that.
And these guys, after the catch, they get a lot of things. Nice little hurdle here, which I'm sure the Michigan coaches love seeing that. Now, pass protection. This team has only given up 6 sacks all year, an incredible number. They get everybody involved. They'll do some max protect. Here you're going to see the back. Not only they run and catch, now they pass protect and throw the ball downfield, Tom.
Well, one of the things is when you have a great running game like that, it makes your pass protection easier because you're a little bit leery about what you're doing and how you're attacking them because of the great run game.
And, Tom, you know it's a very lonely feeling when you call that blitz and it doesn't get home, and your secondary's hanging out there on that.
It's one of those rut rows.
Yes, exactly. And then when you talk about that, they'll also get their wide receivers. They're dinged up a little bit at running back. They'll get their wide receivers involved in the run game. A bunch of carries from this year, a lot of big plays. And here's a little reverse where they're going to get everybody flowing one way. And you see the orange lines, that's where the ball ends up.
Get the ball in the skill. Get the ball in the skills hands.
Yeah, and you see all those linebackers are chasing and around the end. And again, it's an end around, picks up 15, 20 yards. Now, as good as they are on defense, the old school offense, it's the old school Michigan offense, they're top 5, top 6 in the country on defense. Let's talk about some of the things they do. They like to come after you. They're very aggressive. They drop guys, but give you different blitz looks, which create problems for you.
They do give you different blitz, but they have a lot more zone now than they've been in the past few years. That's the thing they're doing, giving you a lot of different zone.
Yeah, and they're doing a nice job of getting their hands up. And then when you talk about where you might be able to make some hay with these guys, much like Penn State did to Ohio State, attack the linebackers in the pass game.
Yeah, that's, I think, where this defense isn't as good. Do not mess with their front four. Get the linebackers.
And get the ball out and hurry, as you're going to see on the next one. But again, you see the linebackers getting up and back here. Michigan State's able to get that ball in behind them and get a big play on them. Now, pass rush is going to be a real critical part. They've got two defensive ends. Ojabu leads the Big Ten in sacks. Hutchinson is second.
There's been a million Hutchinsons in Michigan.
I know.
His dad was a great player.
His uncle was a great player.
They're all players. But here's the thing about him. He's a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. You better know where he is.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can't focus on one or the other. And Ojabu has gotten 4 fumbles he's caused as well. And those 2 phases are good. So are their special teams. Great on kickoffs, great on net punt, great on their return game in the punt, as you see here. And again, these punt returns, really, these are hidden yards you pick up in a game. These 15, 20 yards every time they get them.
Shorten the field, make it easier for the offense to score, get a field goal.
And a great field goal kicker as well, 21 of 23. And we'll kick it back to you, Todd, with that cue right there.
As if I didn't have more respect for Coach Bradley, I believe he quoted Scooby-Doo. The guy is just unbelievable. Look, of course, for Michigan, this is a must-win to stay alive for a berth in the college football playoff. A second loss destroys their chances, and the committee is already showing some favoritism. Take a look at the rankings going into this weekend's games. Wolverines with 1 loss slide into the top 6 in front of the team that beat them head-to-head, their in-state rivals, Michigan State. Spartans sit at number 7. As for Penn State, still didn't crack the top 25. If they can knock off Michigan, expect to see a number next to the Nittany Lions next week. Time to take a break. When we come back, our Impact interview. He knows a thing or two about football in Ann Arbor. Former Michigan and NFL quarterback Brian Griese joins us to talk about this Big Ten showdown when Nittany Game Week returns. Welcome back. Time for our Impact interview. When you have this guy's background in the game, you are what we call an expert in general football knowledge. He's a former Michigan and NFL quarterback, college football and NFL analyst. I could go on and on. Brian Griese, thanks for the time. We're very excited to have you with us, especially since it's Michigan week.
Todd, I'm happy to join you. I don't know about these other 2 guys, Jay and Scrap. Listen. You could put lipstick on a pig with some jackets or something like that, but these 2 guys, that's a rough bunch.
Well, it only took me a few shows to realize that, Brian, and I know these guys will get in their jabs when they can. We'll talk plenty of football coming up, but this is our Impact interview. And you lost your mother when you were 12, and about 20 years ago, you founded Judy's House to provide support and counseling for children dealing with the grief that comes with losing a parent or a loved one. You've been honored by the Big Ten, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, for the commitment to philanthropy and leadership. So tell us what it means to you to make such an impact for those who need the help.
My wife and I started 20 years ago, actually. I think I was a 2nd-year player in the NFL. And, I had struggled through my life with a lot of different scenarios, but I never really dealt with the loss of my mom, and it affected my personality. It affected the way that I interacted with people, affected the way that I played football, quite honestly. And it wasn't until I began to make meaning of that loss and to give back to other kids and families that were going through the toughest time in their life that I began to really deal with my grief. And so it really started as an extension of my grief process. And over the last 20 years, we've worked with over 12,000 kids and their parents here in the Denver metro area, but we also do a lot of work nationally, raising awareness of the issue. What are the risks that kids experience if we don't help them through some of the traumatic experiences they have early in life? We have a lot of families, kids that experience loss and they're witness to the death, suicide survivors. There's a lot of trauma, and it's not enough for us to just think that kids are going to get through it. Time doesn't heal all wounds. We have to help and build coping skills in young people to deal with these very difficult times in our life. And that's what we do, and we've really been honored to do it.
Well, Brian, I just want to tell you before I get into some football stuff, as 10 years ago when I lost my father, and there was obviously a lot of ancillary public things that went with it, my own kids went through some grieving, and a group in State College called Tides does very similar to what you do. And as a parent, you just don't know how to handle it. So I appreciate what you're doing. But shifting into football, college football specifically, we all know you're a Michigan guy. So let's get this week's game. This looks like a traditional Michigan team, physical defense, great kicking game, run the ball, and play action passes that hurt you. Does this seem like a Michigan reboot, kind of a back to the future vibe for you?
From my standpoint, it started at the beginning of the year. Harbaugh brought in a lot of new faces on the coaching staff, and all of them young. I mean, I don't think there's an assistant above age 40 on the staff outside of Jim. And so he went really young, and yes, they've gotten back to some of the core of running the football and playing defense. The coordinator they had there before, Don Brown, was really aggressive, a lot of man-to-man and dictating to offenses. I don't see that but I see a fundamental defense now. But offensively, they are using some of the new age run game. And I think that's helped them with two really good backs in Corum and Haskins, and a quarterback that's, just kind of like when I was playing, just kind of manage the offense, make some third down plays and red zone plays when you need them the most. And they've taken the risk out of the team on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And to me, that's worked for them outside of the Michigan State game where they just didn't make enough plays to win. But it is kind of a back to the roots kind of approach.
Hey, as you look at the two quarterbacks, Brian, Michigan is playing this Saturday. McNamara is obviously the starter, with McCarthy playing as well. Penn State has had problems keeping backup quarterbacks on their roster with some obvious consequences this year. With the transfer portal in college football, do you envision more and more teams going towards playing two quarterbacks to try and keep depth on their roster?
Yeah, it's a good point, Scrap. It's completely different than it has been. When I was playing, certainly I was number 6 on the depth chart. And when I came in, there was a guy named Tom Brady who was number 7 on the depth chart behind me. And we never thought about transferring. We thought about how can we get to be number 5, then number 4, then number 3. And you just had to persevere. And I think that there's a lot being lost right now in college football with the transfer portal, to be quite honest with you. I understand it, but I don't necessarily like every aspect of it. So to answer your question, yeah, I do think you're going to see more 2 quarterback systems just to keep these guys from transferring. You got to remember you're one play away, and certainly with Michigan, those 2 guys bring a little bit different of an approach. And so I think that they can justify it and they can sell it to both guys and to the whole offense. But I don't know, like you as a defensive coordinator, it's not going to keep you up at night. It's not going to force you to, put in a whole nother defense for certain situations. So it's definitely not presenting that kind of an advantage. I really do think it is to keep guys in school, and that's why they're doing it.
We have Nittany Game Week history. You're the first guest we've had who played against Penn State. So you've stood in the opposing team's tunnel at Penn State as the opposing starting quarterback. You won once, lost once. When you took the field and looked across at the Nittany Lions, what's that feeling like playing in a place like Beaver Stadium?
Well, it was a lot more fun winning than losing, I can tell you that. I remember. I'm not sure if the game we played there in '97 was a whiteout game. I don't even know if they did that back then. But I remember coming out into Beaver Stadium and we played in the Big House. That's an iconic stadium. But coming out into Beaver Stadium, boy, it took your breath away. It really did. It looked huge. And it was a huge game. I mean, that '97 game was number 2 against number 4. I think they had some kind of term for like Judgment Day or something like that. So it was a huge game. It was such a great environment. And, between Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, those 3 stadiums, those 3 fan bases, it always felt big. And the games were big, and the environment. And you had, Keith Jackson doing the game. I just have great memories of it.
But Brian's going to hang with us for a few minutes as we take a quick break. Still plenty to talk about with the former Big Ten and NFL quarterback. We will continue our interview. So if you want to see the entire conversation, make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com to check it out along with other web exclusive content. And when we return, Nittany Lions fans always take over the place in College Park. A few pictures from their home away from home and our pride picks. Plus we talk college football playoff motivation for both teams. And Jay's got a special announcement about his mom. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week. Wrapping things up, Jay, you got something to tell us about a Special Olympics auction involving your mom. So.
My mom is very passionate about Special Olympics. Go to our website, NittanyGameWeek.com, to get to the link where you will win. You can bid on a dinner with Jose Garces, the Iron Chef, at Amada in Philly. You and 9 friends eat with my mom.
A lot of cool information. All right, players to watch, guys. Who are the one guys you're looking at to take into this game?
Well, I think if number 1 plays for Michigan, he's going to be a wild card. He may or may not play, but if he's on there, look out for him.
Tom, defense, who stands out today? Oh, you mentioned Hutchinson, top 5 pick in the NFL draft.
Hutchinson's a guy who watched the whole game.
Yeah.
He goes 100 miles an hour.
And Ross, the middle linebacker, is a guy you got to keep an eye on as well.
Anytime there's a Hutchinson, you got to keep your eyes on. Don't miss our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com. It includes these local businesses. Our goal, build a team in the community that supports the show and that you, in turn, support as a viewer to keep the hometown strong. You can see the complete and growing list on our website, which is NittanyGameWeek.com. The depth chart, impact interviews, and much, much more with web-exclusive content all in one convenient location. Okay, that's going to wrap things up for Jay and Tom. I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We're going to see you next week.